I'm doing. Not going to be going anywhere else. Cool. There we go. Let's get into what dietary fat actually is. I'll explain it. It's another energy source in our food. Okay, so carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are the main energy providers in our diet, as well as alcohol as well, right? Fat is just another type of substance in our food, in most, I shouldn't say most foods, like foods, which provide us with energy to function, our baseline energy functions, as well as our physical activity, extra activity that we put onto ourselves, okay? Provides us with energy, but it also does other important things for our body, okay? It coats your nerve cells, allows signals to be sent throughout your nervous system. It controls what goes in and out of your cells, helps to transport vitamins, certain vitamins around your body. Okay, it has several different functions. I won't go into all of them, and it's important. So it's by no means bad, okay? Where I'll move on to here, I said it provides us with energy. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats all provide us with different quantities of energy per gram, okay? So I'm gonna draw a little diagram for you. Very artistic diagram. I'm not an artist, I apologize. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, and carbs. Just quickly, do you mind if we mute our microphone if I ask you to say something? Just so we can, thank you. This represents a gram of protein. This represents a gram of carbohydrates. This represents a gram of fat, okay? Per gram of protein, there are 4 calories. Calories just a unit of energy. Same with carbohydrates. With fat, 1 gram of dietary fat provides us with approximately 9 kilocalories, okay? What I'm trying to say here is fat is more energy dense, okay? This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's important to note because it's easier to overconsume energy from fat, okay? So long story short, fat doesn't make you fat. However, it's easier for us to have too much fat, which may then lead us to consume too much energy for our requirements, which then may cause us to gain weight down the track, okay? So that won't necessarily happen if you eat dietary fat, but it's important for us to pay a little more attention to portion control regarding fat, okay? So I'll just clear that up regarding it being good or bad for us. It's neither good or bad. It provides us with benefits and it's important, but we need to be mindful of how much we're having depending on our goals and requirements, okay? Cool. Does anybody have any questions regarding what dietary fat is and why it's important? Please, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it.
No, I figure you just limit it, yeah? You portion it, I guess, as you say. Don't have too much of it because you just have to work harder to burn it off, yeah?
Spot on. Yeah. It's important to moderate it and control your portions. Spot on in regarding sources, okay? There are better and not as great sources of it, which I'll be getting into. But overall, across the board, we want to include it, but we need to be mindful of what contains it and how much we're having. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Any other things you'd like to ask regarding what I've explained? No. Cool. Bail me up anytime if you'd like to, okay? Let's move on to saturated versus unsaturated fat now, okay? Many of you have likely heard about it before. We've seen it on the back of nutrition panels with our food, okay? Different people have different things to say about this, okay? However, the baseline difference, I won't go into too much detail, between a saturated and an unsaturated fatty acids is in its chemical structure, okay? Saturated fatty acids or saturated fats don't have these things called double bonds, okay? So if you get down to the chemical level, nitty gritty, the molecules like to pack closer together, okay? Pack closer together. That's why a lot of the time, not all the time, saturated fats are solid at room temperature. Think on a steak, the fat around it is solid. Think coconut oil. If you get a jar of coconut oil off the shelf, it's solid, okay? Versus unsaturated fats. There's things inside their chemical structures called double bonds, which make them bend. They're a little bit funkily shaped, okay? That causes them to have slightly looser binding. So that's why, not all the time again, but more of the time, they're fluid at room temperature. For example, think olive oil. It's more fluid at room temperature. You pull a jar of olive oil off the shelf, contains mainly unsaturated fats. It's fluid, okay? That's the baseline difference between saturated and unsaturated fats, okay? However, what we're more interested in, without getting into the chemistry, is the influences on our health, okay? Saturated fats, we'll start with those. If we have too many of them, can over time cause our LDL blood cholesterol, the not so great blood cholesterol, to go up, okay? That can lead to health complications down the track, such as cardiovascular disease, amongst other things, okay? Some saturated fat sources include, like I mentioned before, on meat, on steak. Whenever you see that white coating or the marbling through the steak, that's predominantly saturated fats. Processed meats like sausages, pies, burgers, if they're quite fatty, they contain high levels of saturated fats. Coconut and coconut oil, that's something that people often overlook. It's marketed as a health food. It's not bad. I'm not dissing coconut oil, but it's predominantly saturated fat. So it's not as great for our health as it's commonly marketed as, okay? It's a lot of the time we overlook that. And a lot of the time in processed takeaway foods and baked goods like pastries, cookies, slices, cakes, they usually contain a lot of saturated fat as well, okay? So long story short, if you're going to take anything away from that, we want to try and limit these to a degree in our diet. They're not bad. We don't have to avoid them, but we want to be having more of unsaturated fats, okay? Unsaturated fats, if we predominantly consume those, help to do, let's say, the opposite of saturated fats and help increase our good cholesterol in our blood, okay? HDL cholesterol. That can actually have heart protective benefits, okay? Sources of unsaturated fat include olives and olive oil. That's why you hear that being recommended a lot. Fatty fish like salmon and sardines are fantastic sources of those. Nuts and seeds are beautiful, as well as the lovely, lovely avocado, okay? All of these things are fantastic and recommended to be included in your diet, okay? However, like I was saying before, just because these fats are healthy for us and we want to include them, doesn't mean that we can have as much as we want. We don't want to be gouging our salads and our food in olive oil, huge quantities of it. We don't want to be having 3 avocados on our lunch. We don't want to be having the bag of peanuts next to us and eating the whole bag with our favorite TV show. Because they're so dense in energy, it can lead us to go into a positive energy balance and potentially gain weight, okay? So hopefully I've made sense there. A key takeaway I'd like you to have is we want to mainly be eating unsaturated fat sources, but we want to be moderating our portions, okay? I'll stop talking for a sec. If we're sick of my voice, I'll ask us to have some guesses or to talk through portion sizes for fat sources, okay? So let's start off with nuts. A handful of mixed natural nuts, awesome snack. What's an approximate serve size that we would probably go for if we wanted to be good with our portions?
$50 grams.
About 50 grams? Okay, yep, cool. Anybody else? No, just no judgment here. Just getting a gauge. No, it differs based on the fat source. However, we often like to recommend with nuts and seeds a small handful. Okay. Small handful, even if you like about a thumb's worth. Okay. That's usually an approximately good portion to go for. Okay. Depending on the nuts or the seed, that may be 20 to 30 grams approximately. But then again, it depends on the nut and the seed. Okay. For an avocado, again, this is purely dependent on your goals and on your energy requirements. Usually about a quarter an avocado is a good gauge to go for. Okay. Quarter to a third of an avocado is approximate. Okay. As another idea of a portion size. And olive oil, again, purely dependent on your requirements and your energy needs. However, a rough gauge on your salad, let's say, for an example, about a tablespoon drizzled over your salad. Okay, so measure out a tablespoon, drizzle it over your salad, and it makes beautiful, healthy dressing. Okay, cool. That's what I'd like to cover with saturated and unsaturated fats. Is there anything else that anyone has a question about? More than happy to answer them.
Just on the avocados, I quite like avocado, and I might eat, I don't know, maybe 2 a week.
Yep.
I guess, is that getting to the area of too much?
Depending on everything else in your diet, so your total energy intake is what matters the most, okay, in regards to what you're asking. On a general scale, I would say no. That sounds pretty good, okay?
Yeah.
The maths, what's that about? It's not half a day, but it'd be roughly that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried about that. Again, depending on the total energy content of your diet, if you're looking at more the total fat content of your diet, how much oil you're adding to your food, what sort of meats you're eating, what you're snacking on. Depending on that's the quantity of avocado doesn't sound bad. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
But that's hard for me to answer without knowing the entire context of your diet.
Yeah. Just a guideline though.
Yep. I wouldn't be worried about that. No.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else? Got any questions? No. Cool. We'll move on now to a common trend that we may have heard about, whether eating more fat helps you to burn more fat. Okay. I'm going to start off with the example of the keto diet, the ketogenic diet. And many of you may have heard about this diet where I spoke about it in the seminar last week as well, where most of our energy, roughly around 80% in our diet's coming from fats instead of carbohydrates in the Western world as commonly, okay? Now, different people use the diet for different reasons, but in the context of weight loss or fat loss, a lot of people like to claim and like to market it as, oh, if I'm going to eat more fat, I'm going to burn more fat, okay? Let's break that down a little bit more, okay? When we eat fat, let's say I have an avocado, I'm going to have an avocado as a snack on the keto diet. The fats go into our digestive system, okay? Those fats are used by the systems in our body to produce energy for us, okay? When we're mainly getting our energy from carbohydrates, our body is going to prioritize using carbohydrates, usually glucose to be specific. When we stop giving the body carbohydrates or give it a lot less than we're used to, over time, our body's going to get the energy from somewhere, right? Therefore, if we're giving it substantially more fat, our body over time is going to start preferentially burning more fat for energy, okay? The fat that we're eating. So people here, eating more fat helps you burn more fat. Not always, I'm generalizing here, but they think, oh, if I'm going to eat more fat, then all this fat on my arms and around my belly and on my legs is going to be burnt off. Not necessarily. If we're putting fat into our body's going to be using the fat from our food more. Yes, so that's true. But unless we are eating, no matter what diet you're on, whether it's the keto diet, whether it's the paleo diet, whether it's whatever diet it's labeled to be, unless we're eating slightly less than our expenditure, we're not going to burn fat off our body. So that's where this is a pitfall with things about this claim, they like to, as an extreme way of saying it, suck people in by making them think they're going to burn body fat by eating more fat. That's not necessarily the case. This only has merit in we're going to be burning more fat from the food we're eating if we're restricting carbohydrates. Okay? Does that make sense regarding what I said? Or do you need me to clarify? No? Okay. Please pull me up. If I'm rambling or if I'm not making sense, please pull me up. Okay? Cool. Another example regarding this before I move on is a supplement. There's a few supplements out there, but there's one specifically called L-carnitine. I don't know if any of you have used it or have heard of it before. That's a supplement which claims to help you burn more fat. Okay. Without going into the nitty-gritty details, we need carnitine to help us use fat as energy deep down in our bodies. Okay. Similar to what I was just saying then, just because we're using fat as energy more effectively, that doesn't mean that we're burning body fat more rapidly. Okay. So L-carnitine claims to help you burn more fat. Yep, it may, but unless we're eating less total energy than what we're putting into our bodies, unless we're burning more energy than what we're putting into our bodies, we're not actually going to burn body fat. Okay. So take away from that, eating a high fat than higher fat diet than carbohydrate based diet, you will burn more fat, but it won't necessarily be body fat unless we're eating less total energy than what we're expending. Okay? Cool. Last thing I'm going to speak to you about before I do a Q&A is cholesterol. All right? I will stop talking for a minute and I'll put it to you. What have you heard about cholesterol? What do you know about cholesterol? Are you worried or not worried about cholesterol? Say anything to me that you know about it.
High cholesterol causes heart attacks. That's about it.
One of the contributors, yes. Spot on.
Don't know much. Don't know much about it at all.
That's right. Anybody else?
You have good and bad cholesterol.
Pardon? Sorry.
You have good and bad cholesterol in your body.
Yep. There's two main types of cholesterol. I won't go into details, but high density lipoprotein or HDL cholesterol and low density lipoprotein or LDL cholesterol. Right? There's heaps of sub branches and different types, but those are like the main two that we generally hear about and talk about. HDL cholesterol is commonly deemed the good cholesterol that tends to have heart protective benefits. LDL cholesterol is generally labeled as the bad cholesterol, or the not as great cholesterol that can, over time, if we have too much of it in our blood, can lead to cardiovascular risk. Yes, all right? Where cholesterol is often feared, we often associate it completely, generalizing again, associated completely with heart disease. Or if I eat cholesterol, I'm going to get heart disease and it's going to shoot things through the roof. Okay. Can everyone still hear me? Sorry. Yep. I've just been given a notification I've been signed out, so I'm not sure what that is. But if you can all still hear me, good. When we eat dietary cholesterol, so let's use the example of eggs, our body receives that information, okay? And it goes, oh, I've eaten an egg. The egg yolk contains cholesterol, so I've got cholesterol now. What people may not know is that our bodies actually make cholesterol to be able to survive. Cholesterol is used in several different functions. It's important for us, okay? When we eat dietary cholesterol, let's say from eggs, our body goes, oh, okay, I don't need to make as much, and down regulates how much it produces, okay? Vice versa, if we're not getting much cholesterol in our diets, it makes more to meet its requirements, okay? So long story short, unless you have a high blood cholesterol condition or a genetic condition impacting your cholesterol production, we don't have to fear cholesterol in our food, because if we consume it, our body recognizes that and makes less. So we maintain healthy levels, okay? That's speaking about healthy people, okay? Another way, so long story short, take away from that, don't fear your egg yolks. Eat your egg yolks, okay? That's the main area I was going with that. Don't be too worried about that. What can increase our blood cholesterol above healthy levels is, going back to before, eating too much saturated fats. Again, a reminder from sources like fatty cuts of meat, like baked goods, pastries, cakes, biscuits, from coconut products, too many of those, that can actually increase our levels of LDL cholesterol over time, okay? Eating dietary cholesterol itself, if we're healthy, will have far less of an impact on that, okay? Last thing I'll say about cholesterol in relation to what I've just said is, if we see a product that's labeled cholesterol free, okay? Some of us don't know that cholesterol is only found in animal products, okay? So again, as an example, fatty cuts of meat, egg yolks, it's only found in animal products. It's not actually found in plant-based products, such as, so for, let's use an example, a bottle of olive oil. If that's labeled cholesterol free, we can all smile and laugh and say, no, Sherlock, because plant products don't contain cholesterol, okay? So that's a bit of a marketing gimmick that companies sometimes use to try and label their food as healthy to promote people to buy it, okay? So long story short, eating cholesterol in your diet has far less of an impact than we think on our blood cholesterol, okay? So don't fear your egg yolks, unless a dietitian or a doctor's said that you have a cholesterol condition and we need to watch certain things in the diet, okay? Cool. I've covered everything that I'd like to. We have about 5 minutes or so, 3 to 5 minutes, to go through as many questions as you may have about any of this that I've just spoken about, or if there's anything that I didn't cover regarding fat that you were wanting to listen to, please, I'm handing it over to you. Anything that you'd like to ask. Go for it. I promise I won't bite.
I think I'm right, Alex. You covered it pretty well.
You okay? Beautiful. Nobody has a question at all? No, that's all right. I'll quickly summarize and then I'll ask one of my own, okay, that I have of you. Quickly summarize. So dietary fat is another energy source, just like carbohydrates and protein. Has numerous different functions in our body, and we require it to function healthily, okay? It's absolutely not unhealthy. We want to include it in our diet, but we need to pay slightly closer attention, and your trainers will be able to help you with that, because it has more energy per gram than the other macronutrients. So it's easier for us to consume too many of them, okay, which may put us at risk of gaining weight. We want to swap saturated fat sources out, like fatty cuts of meat, cakes, biscuits, pastries, out. You don't have to cut them out, but we want to mainly swap them out for sources of unsaturated fat. Eating more fish and seafood, using olive oil instead of other saturated fat oils, like coconut oil, for example. Eating more nuts and seeds for snacks, using avocado as a spread, okay?
Sorry, Alex, just with those oils, what about rice bran oil? I don't know what it's made of.
Rice bran oil is another great example. Sorry, I should probably talk about other oils as well as olive oil. Rice bran oil is another good alternative to olive oil. It's predominantly unsaturated fat. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks.
No worries. It's okay. So we want to be swapping sources of saturated out for unsaturated fats. Okay? Because it's better for our cardiovascular health over time. Okay? Eating more fat, if more of your energy is coming from fat than carbohydrates, then yes, we will burn more fat from the food we're eating. But unless we're consuming less total energy than what we're putting out, a high fat diet won't help us burn more body fat. Okay. Regardless of the type of diet you're on, we need to be expending more energy than what we're putting into us. Okay. Whether we're on a high carb diet, whether we're on a high fat diet. Okay. Eating more fats will simply promote the body to use more fat from the food you're eating as fuel. Okay. And finally, too much saturated fat can put our blood cholesterol up over time, but consuming dietary cholesterol, if we're healthy, our body will control for those quantities. Okay. We don't have to fear egg yolks. Okay. Cool. That's me done for this evening. Last thing I'll ask is some input from you in regards to topics you're interested in. I've got ideas that I'm going to be doing from week to week, but I'd love to hear from all of you a topic or two that you're interested in learning about that I can present to you. Okay, so go for it.
I'd like to know more about, obviously, weighing foods.
Yep.
I never do it, and I don't really want to do it. And I've been exercising for ages now, maybe 6 or 8 months or something.
Yep.
And I haven't looked at my diet as being a point of an issue yet. But I think now my weight has stabilised, and I'm finding that I'm not losing weight.
Okay.
I've gained mass. I've gained muscle over that period.
Yep.
But I feel like I've plateaued a bit. So I think, maybe looking at weighing foods might be a good one.
Beautiful.
And what sort of, how much intake essentially.
Yep. Done. Noted. We'll definitely do so. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, mate.
No worries, thanks.
Anything else?
I'm on the same sort of lines on that, just portion control.
Portion control, yep.
What's a good portion, and when to have like a bigger portion of something throughout the day, like different times of day. I don't know whether that makes a difference or whatever.
Yep.
But I tend to eat all of my food, well, not all of my food, but quite a majority of my food later on in the day rather than in the morning. I don't know whether that is bad or good. I don't know.
That'll be dependent on numerous factors. In terms of your body weight and the overall scheme of things, if we're eating appropriate quantities of energy for our requirements, and we're getting the nutrients, the wide variety of foods to meet our nutrients in, meal timing matters less.
Okay.
Than,
good.
Like I said, than eating appropriate amount of energy and nutrients. Okay.
Yeah.
Meal timing matters less. But
so just on that, Alec, and I don't know, but if you have a larger meal, say, you go to work, you snack during the work day, you're only having a little bit. Yep. You come home from work, you go and do your exercise, an hour's exercise or whatever, and then you sit down and have a large roast dinner with all the trimmings.
Yep.
Surely that's got to have a bad effect.
So a few things there. The first one I want to attend to is if you eat it with all the trimmings. All right. I'd be more worried about the saturated fat and the total fat content in all those trimmings than I would be worried about you having a larger meal at night. Okay. However, in saying that, two main things I want to go with there. The first thing, if we do eat, studies have shown, this isn't the case for everybody, studies have shown if we eat a lot of our daily energy intake right before going to sleep or closer to going to sleep, it can have over time negative impacts on your blood sugar, on your blood cholesterol, on blood parameters and health markers. However, what I was saying before about meal timing matters less is that if we're eating an appropriate total quantity of energy and we're meeting all of our nutrient needs throughout the day, if we are exercising regularly, if all those things are in place, then eating all of your foods, not all of your food, eating more of your food late won't matter as much. It's more of a worry in people who don't meet their nutrient needs, are over consuming total energy, and not exercising enough, amongst other things. That's when that effect has more of an effect, if that makes sense. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's ideal to spread your energy intake throughout the day. Ideally, okay, if I was setting someone up from baseline, I'd recommend that, depending on the person. But what matters more is your overall nutrient intake and overall energy intake, more so than when you get that in. Okay? In the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Okay? But I will definitely cover portion control meal timing. Okay? Thank you for that. It's very helpful.
Alex, just another one from me as well is micronutrients, so like iron and all that jazz.
Nice. Done.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries. Pleasure. Beautiful. Anything else that we're interested in learning about? No? Okay. Thank you very much to all of you for coming tonight and for your questions. Muchly appreciated. Down the bottom here, I have my Instagram. If you are interested in seeing what I post, and or if you think of questions later on that you forgot to ask, you're more than welcome to message me any single time. And I'd love to chat about them, okay? Otherwise, everyone have a beautiful week. Enjoy your sessions with your trainers and stay healthy, all right?
Thank you.
I'll see you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye for now.